You've been doing everything right. The vision boards, the affirmations, the meditation sessions at 5 in the morning. You've read every manifestation book, watched every guru video, followed every protocol to the letter. And yet, somehow, the life you're trying to create feels just as distant as it did 6 months ago, maybe even further away. What if I told you that the reason your manifestations aren't working has nothing to do with your dedication or your worthiness? What if the entire approach you've been taught is fundamentally backwards? What if quantum manifestation isn't about doing more, but about understanding less? Welcome to Quantum Horison, where we dive deep into the real mechanics behind reality creation. I'm here to show you that manifestation isn't the complex, effort-driven process most people think it is. In fact, it's so elegantly simple that most people completely miss it. And if you're ready to finally understand how this actually works, hit that subscribe button now because we're about to shatter some illusions. Here's what nobody tells you about quantum physics and manifestation. The universe isn't waiting for you to convince it. It's not testing your faith or measuring your gratitude. The quantum field doesn't care how many hours you spend visualizing or how perfectly you craft your intentions. The field responds to something much more fundamental, something that operates beneath the surface of all your conscious efforts. Most people approach manifestation like they're trying to negotiate with reality. They think if they just ask nicely enough, believe hard enough, or follow the right steps in the right order, the universe will finally cooperate. But that's not how quantum mechanics works. That's not how consciousness works. And it's definitely not how manifestation works. The truth is, you're not trying to create something from nothing. You're not attempting to bend reality to your will. You're simply learning to tune in to what already exists. Every possible version of your life, every timeline, every outcome you could ever desire is already present in the quantum field. Your job isn't to create these realities. Your job is to collapse into them. Think about a radio for a moment. When you turn the dial to 97.5 FM, you're not creating that radio station. The signal was always there, broadcasting continuously. You're simply adjusting your receiver to match the frequency. Manifestation works exactly the same way. The reality you want is already broadcasting. The question is whether your internal receiver is tuned to the right station. Now, here's where most people get stuck. They're trying to tune their receiver with their thoughts alone. They think if they just think positive enough, grateful enough, abundant enough, they'll somehow lock onto the frequency of their desires. But thoughts are only one small part of the equation. Your emotions, your beliefs, your nervous system, your body chemistry, the way you breathe, the way you move through space, all of these create your vibrational signature. And here's the key insight that changes everything. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. Not what you're trying to become, not what you hope to attract, but what you're actually embodying right now in this moment. This is why affirmations often fail. You can repeat, "I am abundant," 1,000 times, but if your body contracts with anxiety, every time you check your bank account, you're broadcasting scarcity, not abundance. The field reads your full signal, not just the words you're saying. Let me share something that might surprise you. The most powerful manifestors I know rarely think about manifesting. They don't spend hours in meditation trying to attract their desires. They don't obsess over timelines or look for signs from the universe. Instead, they've learned to live from the end result. They've discovered how to inhabit the frequency of their desired reality so naturally, so consistently, that the external world has no choice but to reflect it back. This isn't about pretending or faking it until you make it. This is about a fundamental shift in your state of being. It's about recognizing that the version of you who already has what you want exists right now in the quantum field. And when you align with that version, when you begin to think, feel, and act from that place, reality reorganizes itself around you. Now, I know this might sound abstract, so let me make it concrete. If you're manifesting financial abundance, The question isn't, how can I get more money? The question is, how does someone who already has abundance think, feel, and move through the world? How do they make decisions? How do they treat money? How do they breathe when they're making a purchase? What's their relationship with risk, with opportunity, with generosity? When you start embodying these qualities, when you start making choices from that frequency, you're no longer chasing abundance, you're becoming it. And the field responds to what you become, not what you chase. This is where quantum physics meets practical spirituality. In quantum mechanics, we know that the observer affects the observed. Your consciousness literally influences the collapse of quantum possibilities into manifest reality. But most people are observing from a place of lack, from a place of not having, from a place of waiting for change. And so they keep collapsing the same limited outcomes. The shift happens when you begin observing from the place of already having. When you look at your life through the lens of someone who knows their desires are inevitable. When you observe with trust instead of desperation, with knowing instead of hoping. But here's what trips people up. They try to force this shift. They try to think their way into a new state of being. But you can't think yourself into embodiment. You can't mentally convince your nervous system that you're safe and abundant when it's been wired for survival and scarcity. The real work happens at the level of the body, at the level of the nervous system, at the level of cellular memory. This is where trauma, conditioning, and inherited patterns live. This is where your deepest beliefs about what you deserve and what's possible are stored. And until you address this layer, your conscious efforts at manifestation will keep hitting an invisible wall. I want you to comment below with one word that describes how you feel when you think about your biggest manifestation goal. Just one word. Is it excitement? Is it anxiety? Is it hope? Is it doubt? Because that feeling, that emotional response, is giving you direct feedback about your current frequency. And your frequency is what determines what you attract or repel. This is the foundation we need to understand before we can dive into the practical techniques. Because quantum manifestation isn't about learning new methods. It's about unlearning the patterns that keep you locked in the old reality. It's about recognizing that you're not broken, you're not behind, and you don't need to become someone different. You simply need to remember who you already are beneath the conditioning. The version of you who lives your desired reality isn't some future self you need to create. That version exists now, in this moment, vibrating at a frequency you can access today. The question is, are you willing to let go of who you think you are to become who you actually are? In the next part of this series, we're going to explore exactly how to make this shift practical and embodied. We'll dive into the specific techniques that can help you regulate your nervous system, reprogram your subconscious patterns, and align your full being with your desired frequency. But for now, I want you to sit with this understanding. You are not separate from your desires. You are not waiting for permission from the universe. You are the universe, learning to remember its own creative power. So let's get practical about this. Because understanding the theory is one thing, but living it is something entirely different. And this is where most people fall apart. They get the concept intellectually. They feel inspired for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, and then they slip back into the same old patterns without even realizing it. Here's what I've discovered after years of studying this work and helping thousands of people break through their manifestation blocks. The gap between knowing and being isn't filled with more information. It's filled with embodied practice. It's filled with moment-by-moment choices that either reinforce your desired frequency or pull you back into the old timeline. And before we go any deeper, if this resonates with you, if something inside you is recognizing the truth of what we're exploring here, make sure you're subscribed to Quantum Horison. Because what we're sharing isn't surface-level manifestation content. This is the deep work that actually transforms lives. Hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss any part of this journey. Now, Let's talk about what embodiment actually looks like in daily life, because this is where the rubber meets the road. It's easy to feel aligned during your morning meditation. It's easy to hold your vision when you're journaling in a quiet room. But what happens when life hits you? What happens when you get the rejection email, when the bill arrives, when someone triggers your old wounds? This is the moment of truth. This is where most people's manifestation practice crumbles, because they haven't built the internal capacity to maintain their frequency under pressure. They haven't learned how to stay aligned when everything around them is suggesting that their desires are impossible. Let me share something with you. The most successful manifestors I know have one thing in common. They've developed what I call frequency resilience. They've trained themselves to return to alignment quickly, even after they've been knocked off course. They don't expect perfection from themselves. They don't beat themselves up for having doubts or fears. Instead, they've mastered the art of course correction. Think about it like this. Imagine you're driving from Los Angeles to New York. You don't expect to drive in a perfectly straight line for 3,000 miles. You expect to make adjustments along the way. You expect to recalculate your route when you hit traffic or construction. The goal isn't to never get off track. The goal is to keep returning to the path that leads to your destination. Manifestation works the same way. You're not trying to maintain perfect alignment 24 hours a day. You're building the skill of recognizing when you've drifted and knowing how to get back on frequency. And this skill, this capacity to return, this is what separates those who manifest consistently from those who struggle for years without results. So how do you build this resilience? How do you train yourself to embody your desired frequency, even when your circumstances are telling you a different story? It starts with understanding that your nervous system is running programs that were designed to keep you safe, not to help you expand. These programs were installed when you were young, when survival was more important than thriving. Your nervous system learned to scan for danger, to expect the worst, to protect you from disappointment. And while these patterns may have served you at one point, they're now the very thing that's keeping you stuck in the old reality. Every time you feel that familiar contraction, that tightening in your chest when you think about your big dreams, that's your nervous system trying to keep you small. But here's what's beautiful about this understanding. Once you recognize these patterns, once you see them for what they are, you can start to work with them instead of against them. You can begin to communicate with your nervous system in a language it understands. You can show it that it's safe to expand, safe to receive, safe to become the version of you that lives your dreams. This happens through what I call micro-alignments, small consistent choices throughout your day that signal to your system that you're already the person you're becoming. It might be taking 3 conscious breaths before you check your email. It might be standing a little taller when you walk into a room. It might be choosing to respond with curiosity instead of defensiveness when someone challenges you. These micro-alignments might seem insignificant, but they're actually quantum events. Every time you choose the new response over the old pattern, you're literally rewiring your neural pathways. You're creating new grooves for your consciousness to flow through. You're training your system to expect good things instead of preparing for disaster. And here's where it gets really interesting. As you begin to embody these new patterns, as you start to live from your desired frequency more consistently, you'll notice that your external reality begins to shift in subtle ways. Opportunities start appearing that weren't there before. People begin responding to you differently. Synchronicities become more frequent. Doors that were previously closed start opening. This isn't magic, even though it might feel like it. This is simply the natural result of frequency alignment. When you change your internal broadcasting system, the external world has no choice but to reflect that change back to you. It's physics. It's how the universe works. But I want to address something that comes up for a lot of people at this stage. They start seeing these small shifts, these early signs that something is changing, and then they make a crucial mistake. They get impatient. They start pushing for bigger results, faster timelines, more dramatic proof that it's working. And the moment they start pushing, The moment they move back into effortful trying, they lose the very alignment that was creating the results. They fall back into the old paradigm of thinking they need to make things happen instead of allowing them to unfold. This is why surrender is such a crucial part of the process. Not the kind of surrender that gives up or stops taking action, but the kind of surrender that trusts the intelligence of the universe. The kind of surrender that knows your desires are already on their way, even when you can't see the full picture yet. I want you to think about a seed for a moment. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, you give it sunlight, and you trust the natural process of growth. You know that something is happening beneath the surface, even when you can't see it yet. Manifestation works the same way. The changes you're making at the frequency level are like roots growing beneath the surface. They're invisible at first, but they're absolutely real. And if you keep watering them with consistent embodiment, with patient trust, with unwavering faith in the process, they will eventually break through the surface as tangible results in your physical reality. So let me ask you something, and I really want you to think about this. Drop a comment below and share your honest answer. What's one old pattern, one limiting belief, one fear-based response that you're ready to release so you can step into your next level? Because awareness is the first step toward transformation, and sometimes we need to name what we're leaving behind before we can fully embrace what we're moving toward. This recognition, this willingness to let go of what no longer serves you, this is where your real power lies. Not in trying to add more techniques or strategies to your manifestation practice, but in releasing the internal blocks that have been keeping you stuck in the same old cycles. Because here's what happens when you truly let go. When you stop trying to control the how and the when you stop micromanaging the universe's delivery system, you create space for something far more elegant than anything your conscious mind could have orchestrated. You create space for quantum magic. And I'm not talking about the kind of magic you see in movies. I'm talking about the kind of magic that happens when your internal frequency becomes so coherent, so aligned, that reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around you. It's the magic of perfect timing, of unexpected connections, of doors opening in ways you never could have planned. But here's what most people don't understand about this process. The letting go isn't a one-time event. It's not something you do once and then you're done. It's an ongoing practice, a moment-by-moment choice to trust instead of control, to flow instead of force, to receive instead of chase. Every time you catch yourself slipping back into old patterns of worry or doubt, every time you notice your mind spinning stories about why it's not working or how long it's taking, that's your opportunity to practice the art of surrender. That's your chance to breathe, to center yourself, and to remember that you're not in charge of the timeline. You're only in charge of the frequency. And speaking of frequency, I want to share something with you that completely changed how I understand this work. Your frequency isn't just about your thoughts and emotions. It's about the quality of presence you bring to each moment. It's about how awake, how alive, how connected you are to the eternal now. When you're fully present, when you're not lost in stories about the past or fantasies about the future, you naturally align with the frequency of your highest possibilities. Because presence is where your power lives. Presence is where miracles unfold. Presence is the doorway through which your desires enter physical reality. So here's what I want you to remember as we close this journey together. Quantum manifestation isn't about perfecting a technique or following someone else's formula. It's about returning to your natural state of being, the state where you already are everything you've been seeking. The version of you living your dream life isn't waiting in some distant future. That version is vibrating right here, right now, in this very moment. Your desires aren't separate from you. They're not something you need to chase or convince the universe to deliver. They're extensions of your deepest truth, calling you home to who you really are. And when you finally stop trying so hard to become someone else and start embracing who you already are beneath all the conditioning, that's when the magic happens. If this video has shifted something inside you, if you can feel your frequency changing just from listening to these words, make sure you're part of the Quantum Horison family. Subscribe now, because this is just the beginning. We're diving deeper into the practical applications of everything we've covered today in upcoming videos. And before you go, drop one word in the comments that represents your commitment to this new way of being. Maybe it's trust, maybe it's surrender, maybe it's presence. Whatever comes up for you, share it below. Because when you declare your intention in this space, you're not just commenting, you're anchoring your new frequency into reality. You're telling the quantum field exactly who you're choosing to become. The shift starts now.